pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And as customary, I'd like to have a moment of silence, please. I have to announce that this meeting is being recorded and televised on WHCA. The next on we're going to reorganize the board. Before we do that, I just want to congratulate and welcome Don Baez and Christine Gorman to our board. Thank you very much for volunteering. I'd like to thank Laura Howe for her term. She decided not, she didn't win, but at least she volunteered for 3 years. And special thank you to Carl Kowalski, where 30-something plus years volunteering for the town. So I mean that's something to be proud of. So anyway, we're going to reorganize, and I will turn the gavel over to our town administrator.
Me? Okay, great. At this time, I'd like to take nominations for chairman of the board.
I nominate Justin Evans, please.
Okay.
I'll second that.
I nominate Dan Salvucci.
I'll second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay. If we could have somebody second that, and we'll just vote on the nominations.
Christine seconded Dan's.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I'm just quiet.
All right. So at this point, then, we will vote. If we could first see who would like to vote in favor of Justin Evans as chair. Okay. And that has it right there at
Yeah.
3.
I'd just like to thank you two for nominating me. I like being vice chair.
Always a bridesmaid, never a bride?
That's the way it goes, yeah.
Yeah.
So I enjoy being vice chair, and Justin can probably pronounce people's names a lot better than I can.
I think
I'll
you'll
try.
do a fine job.
Okay.
Okay. So now I hand the gavel to Mr. Evans.
So we're going to have to switch.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Did you want to shuffle around or?
Where do we go?
Sure. Need to finish reorganizing, but I will entertain nominations for vice chair. Sean?
I nominate Mr. Salvucci, please.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? Seeing none, vote. All in favor of Dan Salvucci?
Aye, thank you very much.
Unanimous. And then I'll entertain nominations for clerk.
I'll nominate Sean.
Second.
Any other nominations? Seeing none, all in favor of Sean as clerk?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous
You can
again.
switch, Sean, if you want.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, we take a second to rearrange. Thank you.
Musical chairs.
I know. Sorry, it should be the only time we do that.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for the nomination.
Why did you think when you looked at me, you're like,
I want to go.
No, I wasn't.
Worked out well. All right. Is that her keys?
Yes. You'll need those later?
And phone and pen and.
We'll get there. All right. I will seek a motion to approve bill and payroll warrants.
So moved?
Second.
All after the read file. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. One abstention. And accept correspondence in the read file.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And public forum.
Thank you. Rosemary Ahana Hill, 405 Franklin Street. I'm coming to ask you to think differently than we have in the past. Recently, our debt, a very simple ask on the warrant, didn't pass because there's been a trust issue. And we saw this at the schools, and we changed things. We changed leadership. We did something different. I would have hoped that maybe you would have done something different tonight. I am sad that it seems to be the same voices, but you have an opportunity to be different now than you have been. We need to build trust. You need to prioritize trust. And I'll ask, as you move forward, that you do things differently than you have in the past. I will give an example. We lost a lot of trust on town hall floor when we passed over the wetlands. A lot of people are disheartened by the fact that that was two different forums and something that was passed to put on the warrant. And that we were told that basically you didn't have enough information. Well, it shouldn't have gone on the warrant if we didn't. So again, please do something different. Please look to a September meeting to put some of the things we skipped over onto the warrant. Additionally, to address the South Shore VOTEC debt. That's something that's going to be very disruptive for our finances across the board, and do it quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Anyone else? Bob?
Bob Kimball, 877 Auburnville Way. First of all, we've got a new board here, and congratulations, and let's work together. It's going to be appreciated, I hope. First thing is, there's a Memorial Day celebration on Memorial Day at 9:30. Didn't know anything about it. It hasn't been on the website. It hasn't been anywhere. And I think it's a disservice to our veterans that it hasn't been publicized better. So I'd appreciate it. I'm saying it now, and I hope we can get maybe something on the website to say that there is a celebration. Secondly, on the people have been saying they want more trust and visibility. I looked on the website today, and I didn't see any minutes for the selectmen posted since January. And I don't think that's right. They should all be posted. So I'd appreciate it if you could consider that, too. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you.
Josh.
Anybody else for public comment? Approval of the meeting minutes. Seek a motion to approve the meeting minutes for February 17th, 2026.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
All right. Chairman's report. I guess I can echo what Dan said earlier. Thank Carl for his years of service. He's served as a mentor to me, and expect me to reach out to you as I try to figure out how to sit in this chair. And I do want to thank Laura Howe for 3 years on the select board and all that she's given to the town. It's funny, she and I often came at these problems that we face on the board from opposite directions. I come, an engineer that works in regulatory compliance, and she really leads with her heart. So I don't think we could have approached the problems more differently, and it was always reassuring when we came to the same answer. So I appreciated a lot of the work that she did in serving the board with her. And welcome to Dawn and Chrissy. Look forward to getting to know you both. All right. New business. Act on the request of the Whitman Mothers Club for permission to use Town Hall Auditorium on Saturday, November 7th, 2026 for a wine tasting event, and approval of a one-day liquor license for said event.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry. Anyone from the Mothers Club want to speak? Or
Yeah, on that, I can remember when Friends of the Park, we used to do that for a fundraiser, and I'm so glad that it's coming back. Some of the old things that are done around town, like Winterfest, how all those years, and the wine tasting, we did it for many, many years, and I'm glad to see that they're bringing it back, and it brings the town together.
Yeah.
I'll be there. I don't drink, but I'll be there.
Don?
I have a procedural question for Mary Beth in regards to use of the town hall. So it's not specific to the event. I support your wine tasting event, and I look forward to buying tickets. But for going forward, rental or use of the town hall auditorium, does the town have a policy on that?
Yes, we're working on one now. Shortly before town meeting, had been asking for one, and the facilities director before he left employ, did submit one, but I read it over and it really needs to be adjusted. So I'm working on that right now the town meeting is over, because I have been wanting one, to put one in place. So we'll do that in one of our June meetings for sure.
Okay, so I would just ask the chair if that's something we can
Yeah, let's put that on a
keep an
future-
eye on as far as future use.
Put that on a future agenda.
I'm familiar with some other towns that have halls for community use. Norwell has the Cushing Center. The city of Framingham has the Nevins Hall. They do rent them out to nonprofits, and there are fees. They do give discounts for community members, so if you're a resident of Whitman, you'd get a discount. So there's lots of room there to grow, I think, in the future with our town and open up our building for access to different groups and occasions, while keeping in mind, our lack of revenue. And while that may not be a large revenue source, it's an opportunity to at least continue to fund some things like improvements within the hall. I do have one last question, because the event calls for the need for a police detail. So I just wanted to double check going forward with our budget concerns, if the chief is available on the spot to just speak to your budget line and availability for, if the select board approves this tonight, what does that mean as far as from the police budget funding the details needed if the select board approves this? And do you have sort of a pot of money set aside for that when the select board approves something that calls upon you to serve?
The short
that
answer is
event?
no. We make it work somehow. And so all those charitable events, we try and do as much as we can. It depends from year to year what the picture looks like. So I don't necessarily have an answer for you, other than we're going to do whatever it takes to make this happen. We don't like charging for an event. It just takes away from the charity, right? If they have to pay for a detail. So we try and work with that within the budget. Shifts always come first. And when we have to run short shifts, then the money usually isn't there. So, yes, sir.
We have not supported road races in the past because of this issue. I know that for a road race, the support they would need is much greater than an event like this, but I think it would be helpful for us to get a little bit of a scope from you. It's pretty obvious to me in my mind what you would need for a road race and why that is so expensive, but it's not exactly clear what we would need for an event like this. So having some sort of information, I think, would be helpful, especially where the budget is so tight.
Yes,
Yeah.
so obviously the difference is shutting down roadways, making sure everyone's safe.
Yeah.
It takes a lot more officers to redirect traffic. It affects people who live in the area if it's a road race, so it's a much more involved
Yep.
undertaking. A wine tasting, where it's contained, is much less of an undertaking, so without officially saying yes, I think we're going to be able to. It's a lot easier to manage, in other words, so.
Thank you. I just wanted to be mindful of your budget
Yeah, I appreciate that.
restrictions, so thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Sean?
I appreciate the concerns, and I think having a bit more clarity might be helpful. I mean, I obviously support the event, but I think it's going to be small decisions like these that really are going to have an impact on the budget, and I think we need to really do our due diligence. My gut tells me that we're going to support the event, but I would like to have a bit more clarity.
Yeah.
Well, in the past, we have charged, you have to buy tickets for it, and all the businesses, that sell wine come in, they don't charge for it. What they're doing is promoting their business and the type of wine. If you want to buy wine, you can, I assume. And whoever rents the hall needs to have, I believe, insurance, right? I think they need to carry insurance.
And I think that's in this.
Right, it's in there, and apply for a license. A lot of times, we may waive the license fee, which is very little. But it's just an event that is important in small towns to have things like that.
Can I just follow up?
Sure.
I agree it's important, Dan. I'm just going by the examples I've seen in other towns of Norwell and Framingham, who clearly have the ability, what I'm saying is larger tax base, if you will, right? And they don't seem to be as starved for revenue, and their budgets aren't as tight as ours are. Again, Mothers Club is a local organization, and I support it. But if we had an opportunity to share that space, and where these other towns are charging to the extent of Framingham is $1,500, and if you're a nonprofit, they give you a 50% discount, so $750 for a nonprofit to use that. And the Cushing Center is a few $100s, $300, $500. So it's something to consider going forward. Thank you.
Okay. And before that, Sean, Mary Beth, so you've still got contacts in Norwell, I assume, for at least a couple more weeks?
Yes, I do.
Before she leaves. Maybe ask what the policy is for the Cushing Center and
So
compared to what we have. Yeah.
I did go down with Kathy, and we toured the Cushing Center when we were discussing the Corthell building to think if we could lease out the building. The Cushing Center, it's from the woman I spoke with there. There is a part-time person that works a few days a week there, and they also have one custodian on staff. They are not designed, they don't want to make money. That's not really what it's for. It's more to offer space to the community. They rent that out, and so they want the money to cover, all of their costs. But they do rent it out. An attorney has a spot there in one of the offices. They rent it out for Bible study classes. They rent it out for showers or for a wedding function hall. That's not, say, the auditorium in their town hall, but it's the Cushing Center, and it's a beautiful historic building. So we wanted to compare that to what maybe we could offer at the Corthell building. So they do have all different fee structures. If you're a Whitman, a Norwell resident, you pay, one. If it's nonprofit, if you're out of town, and so it's all structured. But I did take all that information from their website, because certainly if we do something like that at the Corthell or even the auditorium downstairs, it runs really well. They said that they could even make more money, but that's not what their town, that's not how this building was left to them, to use.
Yeah, I think that would be a discussion for us. Let's put this on a future agenda. I think it's worth discussing. I don't think our goal is to make money off of it, but at least, not burden the police with details for one-day liquor license, that kind of thing. I know we do usually charge a custodial fee for like the Red Cross, right?
Well, so-
If it's off days, but they usually do Fridays to catch
They usually do
to catch
for
the custodian in the building.
Correct. And what the Cushing Center does when they have a function, it's part of the agreement that the party that is renting the space pays their vendor custodians directly. So,
I see.
it's the people that they use all the time, but it's paid for directly from the party that's renting the hall. So a lot of good information.
More like our police details then, paid for by the utilities.
Right.
Directly. Okay. Sean, did you have?
So I'm just debating, is there a pressing need why this has to be passed tonight? Or can we wait until we roll it into the conversation with the policy and things moving forward, in a more structured way?
If we hold the date open, I guess, do you ladies mind us?
What would be your timeline for coming to a resolution?
Think we
Just
can-
because we would need to advertise, we want to make sure if we're moving forward or not.
I certainly think at a June meeting we can
I
have
would
this
think in
together.
June. If not the first meeting, the second meeting in June, I would think.
Yeah.
Enough time?
But yeah, let's hold the date open for you.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, come on up. Just introduce yourself.
Jessica Allen, 600 Plymouth Street. I would just ask, so I'm president of Whitman Mothers Club. I would just ask in your deliberations if there are any cost aspects that we haven't realized in the one that we had last year, such as police detail, janitorial services. If you can just pass that on to us so we can make a decision on whether we can afford to have the event, if it still makes sense for us.
So why don't we just vote on it?
I'm ready to vote on this.
Yeah.
Unless Mr. Kane has a specific reason to delay another month. Every concern I expressed was moving forward. I support this event. I think as a board, I'd like to see us discuss more about use of that town hall auditorium with a policy. And I don't know that that's something would come together in a month, but
Okay.
I'm open to
I'll
hear.
go with that then.
And I think, Dan was probably the only member on the board with me at the time, but we had an issue with the, was it the high school band, or the band boosters were coming to perform, and we wanted to charge them a custodial fee. We usually waive that for town organizations, and,
Yeah.
we should have adopted a policy
Yeah.
the last time this came up, so,
Yeah.
that's on us. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right. Act on the resignation of Richard Rosen from the position of Member at Large, Community Preservation Committee, effective May 5th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Consider the request of Jason DeRozier to be appointed to the position Member at Large, Community Preservation Committee for the remainder of a 3-year term through June 30th, 2027.
So moved.
Second.
I have a question.
Sure.
I support the appointment. I saw Jason's resume, well qualified. My question is more in line with how many members they have on the CPC is 9. Do we know if there are other openings?
I believe there's one more at-large opening, but I'd want to confirm with Lori O'Brien.
Okay.
I think we should probably advertise all vacancies at the next meeting. Usually after reorganization, we do that.
Okay.
Why are you
So my
considering?
additional comment is to follow up with Mr. Kimball, who mentioned at public comment about the parade and no advertising. So we have an electronic sign out front, and it would be my hope that we can start to use that more often and for multiple events. So certainly publicizing the parade up there would be a great idea, and I think adding this opening, if there are, to boards right out front.
Yep.
So that is my feedback.
That's an idea, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Sean.
To piggyback on top of that, Bridgewater Rainham, they send out a newsletter regularly. It's similar to the South Shore News, actually. So it must be kind of a program that does it, but I think it's a simple way that people can just get on an email list, and it's free, just to push out stuff just like this. I think there's some intelligent ways that we could, in the near future, to get more of this out there, for sure.
Cohasset actually does the same thing. I was thinking about that as well.
I think adding that to the sign out front, multiple ways to reach people, it can't hurt, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Any other discussion on Jason DeRozier's appointment? Sean?
Just that I thought it was a very impressive resume. Yeah. Thank you for stepping up.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Act on the recommendation of the Council on Aging to nominate Mary Holland to serve as the town's representative on the Board of Directors for Old Colony Elder Services for the period July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2027.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that?
She's been doing this for a very long time.
Since she was,
She's very helpful on it.
since she took over as director.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Vote to increase fiscal 2027 limits for expenditures from town revolving accounts for animal control, council on aging, library fines and fees, planning board, police department, recreation department, and street lighting receipts.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Sure.
As one engineer to you, on Article 21-2C, the total amount spent during a fiscal year shall not exceed the amount authorized by town meeting on or before July 1st and of the fiscal year, and any increase of the amount of the authorization that is later approved during the fiscal year, not before the fiscal year, during the fiscal year by the Select Board of the Finance Committee. So I think you're out of order.
Your concern is, so your reading of that, we cannot make this
Because it's not
change in
within...
appropriation until July 1st,
Right.
the existing fiscal
And
year?
the second question is, did town meeting vote any reserve funds this year?
I was going to turn that over to Mary Beth to explain.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So
Point of
we
order.
we did want to set the revolving accounts here, listing all of the same revolving account amounts that we have had in the past, except for the recreation. We wanted to increase that from $75,000 to $130,000. We did speak with our attorney on this issue, and our attorney opined that, let's see, that we just need to put this on the agenda and vote this. Let me just take a look at how he said this.
Yeah, to Bob's point, let's make sure we do this vote in the right fiscal year.
Right. The total amount spent during a fiscal year shall not exceed the amount authorized by town meeting on or before July 1st of that fiscal year, or any increased amount of that authorization that is later approved during that fiscal year by the Select Board and Finance Committee. So I think that we could actually increase this for this fiscal year.
Can you, is that in the backup? I just want to read that language alongside you.
I'm sorry, the attorney?
Yeah, the attorney's
Yep.
comments, I believe it was.
You should have that, but I can certainly hand
Yeah,
this
Peter
down to you.
Saunders,
Yeah, it's right here.
2005.
Dated May 11th, right?
Yes, there it is.
Yep.
Shall not exceed the amount authorized by town meeting on or before July 1st of that fiscal year, or any increased amount of the authorization that is later approved during that fiscal year. I think Bob is right, and that we will have to take this vote after July 1st, which I am guessing will pose a challenge for the Recreation Department, but we will probably need to have a meeting pretty close to July 1st to meet payroll.
And we voted these for fiscal '26.
Yeah.
So we voted all these, and the attorney is saying, as such, I do not believe you need to go back to town meeting to take a vote. The Select Board and the Finance Committee will need to vote on an increased limit before any funds are expended.
Yep. I would, unless anyone else is opposed, I would like to ask Peter which fiscal year we should take that vote in based on the language of that general bylaw.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, we can put this on the next agenda if he says take it in June, but if he says wait till July.
Okay. Do
Yeah.
you want a motion to pass over this agenda item?
Sure.
tonight?
I'll take that motion.
Motion to pass over this
Look at
item.
that.
All right. Everyone clear with
Yep,
Bob's
everything
concern,
yeah.
which I appreciate you raising.
Yep, we certainly look into that.
Yeah.
Peter did know when we were voting this, but we certainly can check.
Yeah, let's just confirm and do this right. All right. All those in favor of passing over? Thank you. All right, back to the agenda. Mr. Kane, Chapter 78, Capital Planning, Potential Fall Town Meeting.
Okay, thank you. I think the key here is the fall town meeting, as was alluded to earlier. There's a couple of reasons why I think it really makes sense for us to plan for a fall town meeting. One, I think for capital planning purposes. Obviously, when we're thinking about the regional agreement and potentially lining up with Hanson, if they're going to have a fall town meeting, then it seems to be there's a lot of advantages for us to be compatible with their schedule. And I also think, thinking about free cash, that could be helpful. So I was thinking a little bit later in September. But in any case, I think there are financial reasons why a fall town meeting are beneficial, and to split the operating budget in the spring and the capital budget in the fall. That way, we can really focus on the operating budget in the spring, and you can see how things kind of got murky at the, just a couple weeks ago, whenever it was. By splitting and really focusing on the capital, we can really, I think we can communicate better. We can talk about it in a more concise way, and it doesn't get so put on the back burner from the operating budget. So I think making it a regional agreement issue, that we put it into the regional agreement, that we're going to line up with Hanson to have the fall town meeting for capital planning purposes, could be advantageous. In addition to that, I think when we're considering the state aid, there's been some tension with us and the school committee with how do we capture our state aid? How do we calculate it? How do we project for it? And right now, obviously, from the school's point of view, they have some incentive to be relatively conservative because they don't want to over-project state aid. And, so if the governor's budget comes out in February, and then they have to wait for the House and the Senate, and then it doesn't fully complete the process until maybe August or whatnot, it's a bit of a guessing game. But I think something that we could potentially look into as part of the regional agreement committee, which is going to meet next week, maybe probably not for this, but as a general discussion, is maybe with the fall town meeting, we can also accurately assess the school assessment per each town. They'll have in the official numbers and they'll have the transportation numbers. So then they could say, this is actually what your assessment is, as opposed to projecting it at town meeting before they know what it is. In that case, I think it does help out both Whitman and Hanson, because we would capture kind of like what the full assessment would be, and it also would eliminate the projection process. It's not ideal for the school because they might be giving up some money, but I do think in some ways it's advantageous because most likely any money coming back to us with the lower assessment would likely go into capital that we're going to meet on at a fall town meeting. So it might kind of be compatible that way.
Timeline-wise, would that end up in certified free cash for the current year? If we,
That's my.
maybe not, yeah. I think was that it?
Yeah, I thought we should kind of have some discussion about that, because these discussions for the regional agreement are going to begin soon. So
I think, yeah, on the capital planning piece, my initial concern is that one, our bylaws have structured the capital committee to have a timeline that starts in the fall to prepare for the spring town meeting. So there's that actual logistical challenge, but that the school capital projects, most of them are done in the summer when the buildings are empty, and if we don't approve capital projects until October between the two towns, that may be a challenge for them. They'll still have to generally wait till June, July the following year to start them. But I was hoping to include in the discussions with the regional agreement committee, maybe getting Hanson on our timeline for at least school-related capital projects, or at least for the shared building. Because it is not fair to the district to wait for our town meetings to approve capital projects 6 months off, when it's unreasonable for them to do capital improvements in the winter. But I'm glad you raised that there. And then, yeah, for this year, we may need a fall town meeting for a couple of reasons. It's worth future discussions. Don?
So your suggestion is adding language to the regional agreement that would tie us to having a fall town meeting every year, and what that purpose would be. I don't see that would need to be spelled out in a regional agreement. I'd be really interested to know how, or why you would do that. Does it even spell out that we have that our town meeting is in May? Is that in the regional agreement?
My intention isn't to bind us, it's more to coordinate us. So if the three units, us, Hanson, and the district know that this is going to happen in the fall, then we can coordinate it that way. So we just get on the same page. But to me, it doesn't really much matter whether it's literally in the regional agreement or
Okay.
whether we come to an
Okay.
agreement that's what we'll do.
I mean, I've always found it beneficial the way Hanson handles their operating budget in May, and then they wait to certify their free cash, so they have a better handle on what that actual number is, and then they come back and they spend it in the fall. I think that's appears to be the proper way to do it. I was surprised that there was so much discussion this year at town meeting about the capital items specifically for the district, the paving, that, well, Hanson hasn't funded it yet, and why would we fund it in Whitman, and the money's just going to sit there? For anyone who's been on this merry-go-round with the district, and that's how it's always been. That's how it's always been. So this year, I thought, why is this suddenly an issue? It seemed to sort of take precedence over some of the other real issues about the busing and so forth. Parking lot, you won't pave it until next spring. Well, that's how, so I guess what I'm saying is I support, probably holding off to fund capital items to the fall and line up. But it just didn't make sense because historically Whitman's always funded them in the spring, and no one has ever said a word about, oh, the money's going to sit there for a whole year if Hanson doesn't do it till the fall and we don't do it till next spring. So that was surprising.
It is a regular part of capital committee meetings for whenever school articles come up, whether we put conditions in there, approved only if Hanson also approves it in the fall, or the money
done
comes
that
back to
before.
the town. Like we've discussed the off time quite a bit.
This year it was a reason why they,
Oh yeah.
it was said at town meeting, we won't even fund it because we can't do it right now anyways. So it was a means to not fund something this year. I felt like that excuse was, or explanation was given. So,
Okay.
back to Sean, your
Yeah,
agenda
I think
item.
it's- Yeah.
And any feedback on potentially the state aid and having the final numbers and some benefit to, once those final numbers are in, using that as like a budget checkpoint as opposed to the projection of state aid, which causes tension between us and Hanson and the district.
I think.
I mean, this, to give a bit more information, this year it looks like Whitman stands to get anywhere from, or not Whitman, if Whitman was to get the full amount that could potentially come back to the district, Whitman would have got an additional $150,000 to about $250,000, depending on the transportation aid and the Chapter 70 aid. So it's not a small sum of money. So I think potentially weaving in some language that would allow us to know that it is difficult to make a projection. It puts the district in a difficult spot. Should they project low and be conservative? That is in their best interest, but then that leaves a lot of money on the table that ultimately would go into E&D, which they can do some good things with, don't get me wrong. But the other side is we're really desperate for money right now. So if we need money in the operating budget or for capital, being able to access that money in the fiscal year could be helpful. So being able to kind of come to terms with how we were going to do that in the fiscal year at like a fall town meeting could be helpful. I guess we could.
Yeah. I get the structure why it would be helpful for us. I don't see the incentive for the school committee to reduce their budget when given additional funds from the state, when they are planning on, like this year in particular, they are planning on reducing staff. They do have capital needs that could be funded with an additional appropriation from state aid. So I understand the logic for us to want it. I don't understand why the district may agree to something like that, but it's a discussion worth having.
Well, yeah, I think that's the point of the regional agreement, is to work out and to negotiate some of this stuff. I could be wrong, but I thought in the current fiscal year, from July 1st forward, right, if the budget was approved and they reassessed, so the money could, like South Shore VOTEC does this, and the money could come back to Whitman. But if we had a fall town meeting, couldn't we use the money in that fiscal year to fund capital items that, like the parking lot, like that parking lot would then be available for us to fund in the current fiscal year, where otherwise we'd have to wait to the next fiscal year.
I think that the district, if they get additional state aid for July 1st, they could on July 1st vote to increase their budget using that state aid for a capital project like paving the parking lot with the extra $250,000 to $400,000 that they're going to get. So they could do that without a town meeting being called by either town. As long as it's
And they
Under the school
can't
committee
spend
control.
it because they can only spend what their budget is certified. If the state aid comes a little higher, then it just stays there, and I believe they can't spend any of it until it's certified again the next year. So,
they could increase the assessment. Earlier this year, they had that conversation. What do we do with this extra $240,000? And to my knowledge, have not taken action on it. They're going to let it wash back into unanticipated revenue, which will boost their E&D and give them some E&D.
right. But it's nowhere near the maximum that they can hold,
No, I
which
think-
I believe is why South Shore VOTEC returns funds from time to time, because they hit the maximum
5%, yeah.
that they can
Yeah, I think
legally hold.
today we got the email from DOR that it's $700,000 300,000 and change, they could be up to 3.5 million, 3.2. So, yeah, they're far from a healthy E&D balance.
Yes, or their maximum they can legally hold 5% of their budget. But Sean, I would ask for some context too when you talk about the district having an incentive to be conservative maybe when it comes to putting the Chapter 70 aid as a projection in the budget, because we know they're in hold harmless, and we know they're never going to receive less than they got the previous year. So having context over what a low projection is or being conservative for them, they're still putting in $26 million. That's the state aid they're getting. The increase, we know, is only $75 per pupil. So there's not much tolerance there, I think, for them to really be conservative. I hope we can, speak more about those specifics, or just not, like, they're not really lowballing it, I guess, saying
No,
below the
I guess,
expectation.
oh, sorry, done.
Yes.
I guess from my perspective, right now, it looks like there is reasonable evidence that they would get a bit more state aid than what they,
Fair.
would they
Assumed.
assume. So that tension is going to exist. And although it's a relatively small amount of money, we're talking about like $150,000 to $250,000. So that's, for us in the potential operating budget, that's significant, so there may be reasons why the school would not love to do this, but I think that's why we're working it out in the regional agreement. There's things in the regional agreement, just like transportation, that, Hanson would not love if the transportation gets moved into the operating budget. And there's other things like the vote, having the 70% or 2/3 vote for many of those issues is something that is in Hanson's best interest, but not really in our best interest. So that's what makes it a negotiation. I think it's something going into the regional agreement that we should put on the table at least.
And then during the, if we have a town meeting, we have to consider looking at South Shore Tech and redoing that, understanding that the town cannot absorb over $1 million within their budget.
At least not easily.
Huh?
Not easily.
No, not at all. And, people don't need to understand that.
Yeah.
That we pay for it one way or another.
Yeah, Mary Beth, do you have something?
Just the timing of a special town meeting. You had touched on that about making sure that we schedule the meeting after our free cash is certified. Usually that is certified around Columbus Day, so I wouldn't want to see a town meeting,
Right.
scheduled until at least the end of October, just to be sure. I know that everything got submitted fine.
There will be no funds to spend until then.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So we want to make sure that we have our certified free cash going into it.
And people need to understand exactly ramifications if it doesn't pass again.
Oh, that's on the,
Yeah, on
the
the
VOTEC.
South Shore VOTEC, yeah.
that's not an article for special town
No,
meeting or
no.
Yeah, that's
annual.
just a ballot.
That's just a ballot question,
Yeah.
correct.
But the outreach, Dan, you're right. It's important for this board to communicate the consequences of a yes vote or a no vote,
Yeah.
right? Both ways. We're not telling them to vote yes or no, but the consequences. There's the impact.
Right, exactly right.
And I think that outreach could be improved over, what we just saw for the May ballot.
Okay. We need a vote on that. Set the meeting schedule. So for June,
I was thinking the 2nd and the 16th, Mr. Chair.
2nd and the 16th, I think that makes sense to me. And then if we hear back from council on the timing for that revolving fund vote, we can consider a meeting early July so that there are funds to spend.
Is it possible to schedule a couple months out, so for planning purposes? Is anyone opposed to that? Or do you
I think we usually
prefer one
Month
month at a
to month.
time?
we usually go month to month with enough fluid schedules, but it's generally about 2 weeks between.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 2nd and the 16th, I'm okay with that.
2nd and the 16th, and then we usually try to only have one meeting in July with people traveling, and we usually fail at that and have 2 meetings anyway.
With transfers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Sean.
And I do think having potentially more meetings, not less, over the summer could be helpful for some of the proactive work that we want to be focused on. Yeah, I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I'd rather err on the side of caution and really proactively do some prep work rather than not. That doesn't necessarily have to be could be with work group, or it could be with subcommittees or something like that, but I think we want to be doing work this summer, for sure.
I think that, no matter how you look at it, next year looks harder than this year. So we probably want to get started soon.
Speaking of that, the working groups, like you just mentioned, who is the liaison to the district right now for schools?
That is me.
It's you, okay. Because I was thinking when I saw that last agenda item about Chapter 78, and we just spent a few minutes talking about the district, and now I'm feeling a bit guilty, right, because they're not in the room. So I hope that going forward, if we have an agenda item, that you'd reach out and at least let them know this is
Yep.
on the agenda, and we may be talking about you, because this was something I mentioned a few months ago, is that two boards talking about each other, but not really
inviting them.
planning
Yeah.
any communication in the same room.
I think that makes sense, but
I do, and I would rather go overkill, so I appreciate the feedback. My intention was just to get some feedback from the board so that when the regional agreement committee begins, then there'll be some,
Fair enough. I think we went down a little rabbit hole.
Yeah. as we tend to do. Okay. Yeah, I think that covers it for June. Maybe at the meeting June 2nd, we can look at July dates too to start planning around vacations. Town Administrator's Report. Mary Beth.
Okay, I do have a few things. So the first one is the Corthell Building. The Select Board recently voted to retain the Corthell Building located at 168 Whitman Ave across from the town park as a town asset instead of exercising their option to sell the property. The Corthell Building is on the Historic Registry and therefore qualifies to be renovated with community preservation funds. I've confirmed this information with Mary Joyce, Chair of the Historic Commission, and also with Ryan Tressel, Chairman of the Community Preservation Committee. I recently had a conversation with a person from Our Future Learning Center, which was formerly known as Mary Deb, who expressed an interest in possibly leasing the Corthell Building as a second location for their business, as they currently have more requests for enrollment than they have space. So I know I did a little research, and it was always a preschool, but now they've even added infants and toddlers. So they said that they're looking to even expand, and thought that that might be, a good avenue to explore. So I plan to, set up an appointment for the owner just to tour the building in the next couple of weeks. I also reached out to both the Fire Chief, Tim Clancy, and Building Commissioner Jim Ewell regarding any requirement to have a sprinkler system in place now that the building will have a change in occupancy. So I'll update the board once I know more. When I toured the Cushing Center, I asked the same question of them. It was an old historic building, and I said, you rent this out for Bible study class and daycare, or all, ages. And I said, do you have a sprinkler system? And they said, no, we don't. We have the fire department come in, they do their inspections every year, just as we have had at the Corthell Building, and never had a problem. So Jim Ewell said that he will reach out, because I did hear back from the chief, who spoke with the deputy chief, and so that will fall under the building department. So Jim Ewell will do some research for me on that as well. And then we will need to take some votes on the Corthell. I know that we did take a vote to say that we're not selling it, but for disposition of the property and so forth, how we're going to do it. If the fair market value of a lease is more than $35,000 annually, we have to take a different approach
Like
as
actual
far as
30B procurement. Yeah.
Correct. And if it's under $35,000 annually, then the select board can lease to a particular party through a lease option. So we're still doing some research on that and waiting to hear back, but I'll update again in June on that particular item.
Mary Beth, a question on that one.
Yep.
So we think we can use, it's a historic building, we can use community preservation funds for historic preservation. Can we ask if any towns have used community preservation funds for life safety improvements to historic buildings and potentially fund a sprinkler system with
Right.
They have?
And I did receive an email from Ryan Trussell just this afternoon, and he said, you know, we want to have a meeting just to say, are we looking for a CPC to do feasibility, funds for a feasibility study, or for the restoration of, you know, of the building and the repairs? And I said, well, I believe the latter of the two. But so we'll have a meeting with Ryan Trussell to get everything going as far as the direction, and they also need 3 quotes for all the work that needs to be done. So we'll need to get quotes on, you know, whether it's the roof or this or that, and separate quotes, and get all that together for purposes for planning. And then we'll go through his timeline for when everything has to be in formally to the CPC to make their decision. And they can also, with CPC funds, and I know this, other towns have done it as well, they can borrow against future CPC funds, you know, for a project.
We discussed that with the Peaceful Meadows.
Right, right, so that can be
Sale,
done.
yeah.
So that's something to consider as well.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay. And the next item is the Camp Alice Carlton. So I received notification from Douglas Lapp, the town administrator for the town of Rockland, that the sale of the Camp Alice Carlton land located in Rockland was unanimously approved by the voters of Rockland at their annual town meeting. So I plan to place an executive session item. This just came in on the select board agenda in June to finalize the purchase and sale agreement. So I do have that ready to go, the purchase and sale agreement with the town of Rockland to acquire this land. And after that executive session, we can certainly then, if the board votes to sign that and authorize that, then we can, you know, divulge the details of the sale at that point. So that also will be a June item. And the other item I have, another item is the debt exclusion ballot. So the town had 1,347 voters, or 11% of the 12,238 registered voters cast ballots at Saturday's annual town election. And these were unverified, you know, the unofficial as of this morning. I believe Dawn was working on that today. But the South Shore Building debt exclusion ballot question failed to pass by 93 votes. While this vote does not impact the 27 budget, because our first debt payment is not coming due until fiscal 28, it will certainly affect next year's budget, the 28 budget, if not passed at a future special town election or the annual town election. So the fiscal year 2028 estimated South Shore VOTEC debt payment, based on the information that I received from Tom Hickey, was approximately $1,093,000, which, if a debt exclusion for this building project is not passed, will need to be paid out of the general funds and the operating budget. So this undoubtedly will have a severe impact on the Select Board's recommendations for the fiscal 2028 Whitman-Hanson Regional School District operating assessment, the fire department budget, the police department, the DPW budgets. Those are the larger budgets, but it will also have a significant impact on all of the other various smaller departments. So the debt for the new Whitman Middle School, the new DPW, and the police station are all being paid through debt exclusions outside the levy. So it is unreasonable to assume that a debt payment for a large building project can be absorbed within the town's operating budget and paid for with general funds inside the levy. So the new South Shore VOTEC school building project was passed by voters in 9 towns back in January of 2025 with a 78% approval. And while this information had been discussed at select board meetings on WHCA, Justin, you did something with that, on social media throughout the budget season, the information and talking points will need to be more widely disseminated throughout the upcoming months as we move forward, because we really need to do whatever we can to make sure for 28 that it is a debt exclusion passed. I always say Whitman can be anything you want us to be. I mean, you want swimming pools in every school, like whatever it is. We can be anything, but there's always a cost with it. And this is a very large project, and to have that. It's just, it needs to be outside the levy as a debt exclusion. So I'm hoping that we can get that passed within the next several months.
Mary Beth, so as far as preparing a budget for fiscal '28, leaving that question until next May as to whether or not there is a debt exclusion leaves $1 million question mark in the
Correct.
budget going. So your thoughts would be to ask for if we were to revisit the ballot with this question, to ask sooner?
I would think that that would be the best way to do it. Of course, we have elections coming up,
We have a state election in November.
state elections, so, we could look into that, putting it on there. That's one thing that we could do.
I think that, I believe there's 12 questions tentatively on the ballot already. The clerk may not appreciate
Okay.
a 13th.
Right.
Wow.
Exactly. Or a special election
special.
somewhere, in the next several months. But certainly, go ahead, sorry.
And the board could decide at any time to schedule that.
With so many days' notice to the town clerk, right?
And it could just be
Absolutely.
one question and
Right.
that's it,
Absolutely.
one ballot, vote it. Okay.
Yep.
We could run a ballot concurrently with the state primary, but that would be a complicated.
Right.
Right? You're
Much
grabbing partisan ballots and a town ballot, vote twice.
And do you remember when we discussed that, when the Whitman Middle School was going
Yeah.
on and the town clerk didn't want any,
Yeah, that would
she
be
was
much
not in
confusing.
more
favor
difficult.
of that at all. So yes, we could call, we just have to give the proper timing notice and so forth. But yes.
Okay.
Okay, and let's see, I do want to mention too, that the town has a $60,000 grant, 35,000 is a state grant that we receive for Whitman Housing Production Plan, and 25,000 is coming from the Old Colony Planning. And right now, there is a Whitman Housing Production Plan survey. So the town is working with Old Colony Planning Council, OCPC, our regional planning agency, to update its housing production plan. And we invite you to share your thoughts in this 10-minute survey to identify shared housing needs and priorities, as well as identify potential impacts new housing development might have on the community. So input will help the town plan for future housing that meets community needs, improves affordability for everyone who calls Whitman home, and supports environmental resilience, and aligns with Whitman's infrastructure and services. A state-approved plan also gives Whitman more control over new housing developments. So it's one of several opportunities for voters to make their voice heard over the coming year. So there is a survey, and Kathy did some of these out here. There are some here for anybody in attendance today. However, the website, if you go on to www.oldcolonyplanning.org/WhitmanHPP, you can access the survey online. So this is very new. It just came out in the very beginning stages of this particular project. But the survey results will help, guide this housing production plan. So, and Kathy, thank you for your work on this, for the grant. Okay, and also the Memorial Parade, Memorial Day. The morning color guard ceremonies will start taking place at 7 a.m. around town, the High Street Cemetery, the Knights of Columbus, World War I Memorial Arch, St. James Cemetery, Mount Zion Cemetery, VFW Circle, and Colebrook Cemetery, and they'll conclude at 8:45. The parade forms at Court Street, as it does each year, at 8:45 a.m. We'll start at 9:30 a.m., heading towards Town Hall. There will be ceremonies at Town Hall at 9:40, at the Civil War Monument in the park around 10:15 a.m. So this is on Monday, May 25th, 2026. Declan has
Plus, I
done a
believe
nice
there's
job.
something function at the American Legion Post.
This particular flyer from Declan Ware does not have that on there, but, okay. And then my last item that I have, I'd like to announce that I will be retiring on September 5th. After approximately 23 years with the town, I served as the treasurer collector for 19 years and the last 3+ years as town administrator. As many of you are aware, I have been discussing my retirement for the past several months. I'd like to thank the current select board members, and again, congratulations to Dawn and Chrissy. I'd also like to thank the former select board member Laura Howe and former chairman Gal Kowalski for the opportunity to work with all of you in my capacity as an agent of the board. The last few years have been extremely busy, and together we've made significant changes. I truly feel that Whitman has a great team of department heads in place to bring the town forward into the future. The current ATA, Kathy Keefe, has been an absolute joy to work with for the past 20 years, 17 years as principal assessor, and the last 3 years as the assistant town administrator. Kathy, I can't thank you enough for the outstanding job you've done for the town. Together, Kathy and I have dealt with anything and everything that came our way, and it has been quite a lot in the past 3 years. Kathy set the bar high as an assistant town administrator. I wish her all the best in retirement, and I look forward to working with the town's new ATA, Matthew Dyer, over the summer. I will assist the town over the next few months with the process of hiring a new town administrator. I'll work to make this transition as smooth as possible, which is why I felt that September would be a good time in the budget cycle to retire. Rather than retiring in the middle of a budget cycle, I felt that this would be a good time of year. I'm excited for retirement. I look forward to spending more time with my husband, children, and 3 grandchildren. I've missed too many of my grandchildren's sporting events over the past few years, and I've decided that I don't want to miss any more. And that's all I have.
Chairman, may I make a comment? Thank
Absolutely, Bob.
you. On the Memorial Day service at the, in the park, can we turn off the fountain?
Oh,
Because people with hearing aids, that's a pitch that they hear considerably.
I
You can't hear people talking
turn off the fountain.
during the,
Ask.
right.
I
during
can
the-
certainly ask.
Yeah.
I think that's a small ask.
I don't see why we shouldn't be able to do that.
No, it's just with hearing aids,
Right.
it's a pitch that really gets you.
Okay. I will check on that tomorrow. Shouldn't be a problem.
Thank
You're welcome.
All right, and we have you for a few more months, but I think we should probably discuss what the process looks like to find a new town administrator. So
I think
maybe
so.
an item for the next agenda.
That most certainly would be an item, depending on whether you want to go out for a search or whether you want to advertise
Yeah, we've done both in the
yourselves or
past.
whatever.
and
Right,
I'll
so that
leave
would need to
for
be
a
an item.
Future discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
Put that on the first agenda in
Yeah, the
June.
next one.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. The board needs to go into executive session now pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to discuss strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, the Assistant Town Administrator. And a second executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any law or special law or federal grant and aid requirements, to review and approve executive session minutes from February 17th, 2026. I'll seek a motion
So moved?
Second.
and a roll call vote. So, Chrissy? Verbally, yes. 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 Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, board's in executive session. We will return only to adjourn.